"Take your hands off my wife, Seku, or I'll crush your skull right here in the marketplace." These were the burning words of Adebanjo, the hunter whose calm heart had finally turned to fire. In the wide plains of the old land, where the sun kissed the earth with golden heat and the drums of the ancestors echoed at night, there stood a village known as Olorunco. In this village lived a man called Adebanjo, a hunter of great respect. His arrows never missed, and his yam fields stretched as far as the eye could see. He was a man of calm eyes and steady words. By his side was Nia, his wife, a woman whose beauty was spoken of beyond rivers. Her skin glowed like the ripe she-nut. Her laughter rang like cowrie shells shaken in the hand, and her walk was said to make even palm trees bend slightly, as if greeting her. Together, Adebanjo and Nia had a son, little Kola, who ran through the village like a goat released at dawn. Theirs was a house of peace, or so it seemed. One Harmattan season, when the dust rose like smoke and the wind carried strange whispers, a stranger entered Olorunco. His name was Seku, a trader from lands beyond the Niger. He came with a camel train of goods, bright fabrics, carved beads, and stories of distant kingdoms where palaces touched the sky. Seku was not like the men of Olorunco. His tongue was quick, his smile easy, and his eyes burned with the kind of fire that made women look twice. He played the flute in the evenings, soft tunes that made the young maidens dream and the older women sigh. It is said in the village, "A stranger brings both kola nut and trouble, and you cannot taste one without the other." Nia saw Seku first at the marketplace. He stood tall among his wares, wrapping a cloth around the shoulders of a customer. Their eyes met. A spark, small yet dangerous, leapt like a coal falling into dry grass. At first, Nia told herself it was nothing. She had a husband, a child, a life blessed by the ancestors. But Seku's presence gnawed at her heart. When she carried water from the stream, she would hear the echo of his flute. When she pounded yam, she would feel the rhythm of his laughter in her chest. One evening, as the moon rose fat and white, Seku stopped her on the path. "Beautiful Nia," he said, his voice smooth as palm wine. "Does the sun not tire from chasing you all day? For even it cannot shine as you do." Nia laughed, though her heart raced. "You have sweet words, Seku, but sweet words are like ripe mangoes. They rot quickly." "Then let us eat them before they rot," he replied, his eyes never leaving hers. From that night, secrecy became her companion. She met Seku by the river, under the baobab, in the shadows where the village could not see. Their meetings were fire and storm. His touch was wild, nothing like the steady calm of Adebanjo, but in her heart, guilt grew. For she knew, the goat that licks salt at night will pay when dawn comes. The ancestors do not sleep, and neither does guilt. Nia began to stumble in her duties. When Adebanjo spoke, her mind wandered. When Kola laughed, her smile faltered. At night, she dreamt of fire consuming her hut, and of the talking drum whispering her name. One evening, the village elder, Mama Iyabo, looked at her and said, "Nia, your eyes are heavy, yet you carry no water pot. What burden do you carry?" Nia only lowered her head, for how could she say that her burden was desire itself? Seku, careless and bold, began to leave traces, beads on her neck, the scent of foreign oils on her skin. And Adebanjo, though calm, was not blind. One afternoon, Adebanjo returned early from the forest. The wind carried a strange tune, Seku's flute. He followed it quietly, like a leopard stalking prey. There, by the river, hidden behind reeds, he saw what no husband wishes to see, his wife in another man's arms. The world spun. His bow nearly slipped from his hands. For a long moment, He could not breathe. Then the proverb came to him, "When you see with your eyes, the ears no longer argue." That night, he said nothing. He watched Nia move about the hut, her hands trembling, her eyes avoiding his. But the fire in his chest burned without mercy. The next market day, Adebanjo went to Seku's stall. His voice was calm, but his eyes were like sharpened spears. "Stranger," he said, "you have eaten yam from my farm without asking. Tell me, do you wish to choke?" Seku smiled faintly, bold as always. The yam does not complain when it is sweet. Anger flared. Adebanjo seized him by the throat. A struggle broke. The market froze as men shouted, women screamed, and children scattered. In the fight, Adebanjo struck Seku with a stone mortar. The trader fell, blood spilling like palm wine on the earth. The market was silent, save for the buzzing flies already circling. Adebanjo, chest heaving, stood above the lifeless body. He looked at his hands, at the crowd, at his wife, who stood frozen, horror in her eyes. That night, Olorunco was heavy with whispers. Some said Adebanjo had done right, for no man should allow his home to be shamed. Others said he had angered the ancestors, for blood spilled in rage stains the whole village. Nia sat by the fire, weeping. Adebanjo entered, silent as stone. He looked at her for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "Woman, why? Was my hut not wide enough? Was my heart not deep enough?" Through tears, Nia whispered, "I knew you followed me that day. I knew you watched. And yet, I went to him still. Because I wanted you to burn. I wanted to feel your fire, not your calm. But now, the fire has devoured us both." Adebanjo's heart cracked, for in her words was truth more painful than the affair itself. She had betrayed him not only with her body, but with her will. That night, it is said, Adebanjo carried his spear and walked into the forest, never to return. Some say the spirits took him. Others say he joined the ancestors out of shame. Nia lived the rest of her days like a shadow, raising Kola alone. And the people of Olorunco told their children, "Desire is a fire. If you dance too close, it burns the hut. If you run too far, it freezes the heart. Wisdom is knowing where to stand."